The land of deities. They always said the land of deities was forbidden, sacred ground where no mortal should tread. But one night, the river near our village shimmered like silver under the full moon, and what I saw made me wish I had listened to the warnings. Our village, Umoto, thrived under King Amodi's rule. He was a wise king, respected by all, though he was cautious to a fault. The elders often spoke of a prophecy handed down by our ancestors: when the moon shines its brightest, the path to the land of deities will open. No man must cross it, or the gods will awaken. Most of us thought it was just an old tale to keep children from wandering off at night. But that year was different. Strange things had been happening for weeks: livestock disappearing without a trace, shadowy figures spotted near the forest, and whispers carried on the wind that didn't belong to any human voice. One evening, a hunter named NSA returned to the village trembling. His bow hung loosely from his hand, and his eyes were wild with fear. "I saw them," he said breathlessly. "Walking on the river. Creatures with no faces, only light where their eyes should be." The village fell silent. The elders exchanged worried glances. King Amodi rose from his seat on the high platform and spoke firmly. "No one goes near the river. The land of deities is stirring. We must respect the prophecy." But not everyone was willing to obey. A group of young men, eager to prove their bravery, whispered among themselves. "It's just a story," they said. "There are no gods. Only shadows in the night." I didn't think much of their words until a few nights later, when one of them, a boy named Ikin, failed to return home. His mother wept bitterly at the village square, begging the king to send a search party. Despite the warnings, King Amodi relented and ordered a small group of us, including NSA and me, to go find him. The moon was high by the time we reached the river. Its glow turned the water into liquid silver. The air was thick and cold, pressing against my skin. NSA's voice shook as he spoke. "This is where I saw them." We spread out, calling Ikin's name into the night. But only silence answered. Just as I began to think we had come for nothing, a sound cut through the stillness, a low hum, like 1,000 voices whispering together. My heart raced. "Do you hear that?" I asked NSA. He nodded, his knuckles white around his brow. "They are here." Before I could ask what he meant, the river rippled, though there was no wind. And then they appeared, tall figures, dark and radiant at the same time. Their bodies flickered like flames in the night, and their movements were impossibly smooth, like they weren't bound by the laws of this world. One stepped forward, towering over us. Its voice wasn't spoken aloud but echoed inside my head: "You have defied the prophecy. Live, or suffer." NSA raised his bow, but I grabbed his arm. "No," I whispered. "We can't fight them." The creature's gaze, or what should have been a gaze, fell upon us. The air grew thick, making it hard to breathe. The others shouted, some running back toward the village, but I couldn't move. I could only watch as the beings chanted words that shook the very ground beneath us. Suddenly, a blinding light engulfed the riverbank, and when it faded, the creatures were gone. But Ikin lay there, unconscious, his skin marked with strange glowing symbols. We carried him back to the village in silence. The elders gathered around him, whispering prayers and casting protective charms, but none could explain what had happened to him. He woke the next day, but he was not the same. His eyes were distant, and he spoke of visions, of a land where deities walked and shadows whispered secrets no mortal should hear. King Amodi declared that no one was to speak of the river again. The path to the land of deities was closed, he said, and must remain so. But we all knew better. The gods had stirred, and something had been unleashed. Even now, when the moon is full, I hear their whispers in the wind. And I wonder how long it will be before they come for us again.